this is Debra Carmona. We are going to make characters for a nativity scene, paper mache, which is, you can use a mixture of water and flour. I didn't want to use flour because one time when I made this project years ago, I used flour and water, which does make a nice glue, but the problem is it attracts bugs when you put it in storage. So I didn't want to use flour. So this year, instead, I took my tacky glue, put it in a bowl, added a little bit of water to thin it down, and then I paper mache'd my eggs. Sticky. What we're going to be doing is very, very sticky. And because we're doing something sticky, it's a good idea to take some wax paper or parchment paper, or you can use freezer paper, and put a layer down on your surface where you're going to be working, so you don't have to worry about getting a sticky mess all over the place. Okay, the sticky mess is going to be created by my solution of starch. It's made with cornstarch and water, and I will share the recipe with you. Now you've got two choices. You can pick colors that you want for them, or it doesn't matter what color choices. Once you have it all draped, and once it's dried in this solution, it's going to hold the shape that you create. You let it dry for a day or two, and then you could spray paint the whole thing gold, and that can look pretty. And I'll show you what that looks like, because that's what we're doing at our church. I got together with a bunch of ladies from the church, and they had so much fun making these. And I tried to get the bottles ready like this so that they've got it looks like a body form. And I gave them a pile of fabric, and they created different characters. And we made 5 sets of a complete nativity scene. And me and some other ladies got together and created some animals. I created the patterns and showed them how to make them, and they helped me to get them done. And so we created 5 different nativity sets using these materials. Now, most of these materials are recycled, and they're free. They're otherwise junk. So we're taking junk and turning it into treasure. I love doing that. That's just one of my fun things to do. It's, you know, plastic. We don't need to be throwing away plastic. If we could find another use for plastic, that's a good thing. So we're recycling it and making it into something useful and beautiful that we can, you know, set up a little personalized nativity scene at Christmas time. All right, let's get into it. You can buy a fabric stiffener from the fabric or the craft store, but it can be pricey if you plan to make several figures. Or you can make your own fabric stiffener. Place 1 cup of water and a tablespoon of cornstarch into a pint-sized canning jar. Close the lid, shake to mix, then pour it into a saucepan. On the stove, bring the mixture to a boil. Then simmer until the desired thickness. Pour this mixture into a bowl for ease in use. Of course, it's going to be hot when it comes off the stove. You want it to cool down. I found this solution worked even better than the store-bought fabric stiffener. Just make more as you need it. This solution will keep for several days in a closed jar, because this project did take several days to do. The faces of the paper mache were too brown for what I wanted, so I cut a flesh-colored fabric into an oval shape. Clipped short cuts all the way around. That'll help me to fit it around this egg shape. Using a 1/2-inch flat brush, I painted my cornstarch solution on the face of the egg head. I placed the fabric on the front of the head, which will be the location of the face, smoothing the fabric out over the face. The clipped edges will overlap around the sides and the top. I try to smooth out the wrinkles with my brush. I could have simply painted the faces, but at this point I was unsure if I was going to leave the faces blank or not. The fabric did hide the seams of the paper strips that covered the egg, And I did end up painting the details of the faces in the end, but you can leave them blank, as we did for our church display. Make sure to wash your brush out immediately after each use so that you do not ruin the brush, because if those hairs stiffen, you don't have a brush to use anymore. The solution works like a glue, but it will stiffen when dry. I like to paint the fabric stiffener on the surface before applying the fabric, especially for smaller pieces such as these sleeves. I sometimes add a strip of white to the ends of the sleeves before adding the sleeves of a robe, just to hide the tape and the cardboard. Now we begin the draping of fabrics. I start with the inside tunic. I saturate the entire piece in the fabric stiffener. Squeeze out any excess. Slip the bottle inside the tunic, lining up the bottom edge. You can make tucks or folds as needed to help the fabric fit the form. I folded under the fabric at the neck front. However you shape the fabric, it will harden in that shape. Manipulate the fabric as you like to make it look natural, how fabrics fold over a body. This is sculpting with fabric. Consider yourself a sculptor. Consider yourself an artist. Take the time to place folds where they should naturally fall. I crocheted a belt sash with some coordinating yarn color. You could use a strip of fabric, but I didn't feel like hemming it, so I just crocheted one. You can even add a hem if you want, simply by folding over the edge of the saturated fabric, pressing it firmly. I did so at the bottom of this vest and the front opening sides. Oh, and as usual, my cat always has to check out my projects to see what I'm up to. I have most of the characters draped now. You can see that I have some pins to help hold certain pieces in place while the fabric stiffener dries. I let them dry overnight before removing any of the pins. Each figure is standing on waxed paper so they don't stick to my table. In my next video, I will show you how I made their hair, beards, hats, head coverings, and props, such as a staff for the shepherds and gifts for the wise men. I have a video series on this whole project. A separate video showing how I made the manger crib, the tabletop display manger. You will find all of my videos on my playlist, Christmas Activities. Be sure and subscribe and check out the other videos in this series to help with this project.